I'm Shepard Smith. This is Studio B. It's the bottom of the hour. Time for the top of the news. President Obama assured the nation nobody is listening to your telephone calls. Thank you, Mr. President. It was his first public response since two newspapers revealed a slew of details about our government's ongoing surveillance programs. First, the British newspaper The Guardian reported that a secret court order has allowed the feds to pull phone records for tens of millions of customers of Verizon. The report states those records include phone numbers and times of the calls, but not the actual content. That's what they tell us. No wiretapping, in other words. And then there's the report from the Washington Post, a whole separate thing. That report indicates the federal investigators are mining our online data, pulling our emails, our photographs, our search histories, and much more. The president says those programs have kept America safe in exchange for, as he puts it, quote, modest encroachments on privacy. Civil liberties groups say the tracking goes way too far. It's the top story at the bottom of the hour, and joining us now is the former Deputy Director of the National Security Agency, Colonel Cedric Leighton. Sir, good to see you. Thank you.
My pleasure, Shep. It's good to be with you.
Why is this not a direct violation of the Constitution?
Well, because all three branches of the government are involved in this. You've got the executive who proposes this, and then you have the legislative that basically approved it, and then, of course, the courts have given final legal approval for it. So the way the structure works right now, you have the three basic branches of government saying it's okay to do this.
Everything I'm doing online, the duration of my phone calls and the number to which I'm making a call, where I was when I made that call, my emails, my photographs. Would you understand it if an American citizen said to you, this doesn't sound like America? I'm confident that the framers said in the Fourth Amendment and beyond, you can't do this. And that the court says you can, and you say you can, and the president says you can, doesn't much matter. And some people out there are furious.
Absolutely. Well, and this is, having seen what a communist society looks like up close and personal, I know exactly what a situation is like when you don't have the civil liberties that we've come to take for granted in this country. So we have to be very, very careful. Now, in terms of what happens with NSA, there are actually some very strict guidelines internal to NSA that are followed. And that's where, of course, those guidelines are not made public. So people
you'd forgive us if we didn't even believe you, right? Because representatives of the government have testified before Congress that they certainly don't data mine people from all across the country. And of course, we know that's a bold-faced lie.
Well, and here's what happens. They shouldn't have made the statements that they made. They shouldn't have couched them in the way that they did.
Shouldn't have lied to us like they do all the time about matters of secrecy and privacy.
Right. You never lie. First of all, you never lie.
Yeah, but they did, and they continue to lie to us. And what they're doing is chipping it away at our liberty. And it seems to me that the Constitution has regulations about how much liberty you can take away while trying to secure our make us secure. There's a line there. And can't you look at this objectively and say, man, we're over the line?
Well, I think what you have to do is you have to look at the balance between the privacy requirements that we have, and they are requirements, they're not desires, they're not wants, and the requirement to keep us safe. So you look at this, it would be much better if the system were directed at very specific people that you knew were
actually that would not just be much better, that would be constitutional.
Well, that's why it's better.
It certainly is. And what we have now is unconstitutional.
Well, I would say this. I think you have a difficulty with the constitutionality of the argument because all three branches have acquiesced to it, at least in the present form. But what really
sounds
has
like
to
anarchy
happen
to me.
is, well, no, you can't have that because then the government collapses. But when you're dealing with this situation, you have to really look at what the greater public good is. And the NSA tried very hard to follow the rules and make sure that it is not a rogue operation. If you're an NSA employee and you go on your own and do some data mining that is not just phone number and where Shep's been today, but it's more intrusive than that, then they're in trouble. They would go to jail for that. So people need to know that aspect of it as well. But the other side of it is we need to make absolutely sure that we follow the tenets of our Constitution, make sure that our civil liberties are protected, and also make sure that everybody who is involved in this understands what the difficulties are with the collection, as well as what the requirements are from a constitutional perspective and a civil liberties perspective. So it's an amazing discussion to have.
It really is.
The key point
is that
Thank God
7 years after all this started, we're finding out about it. And it seems to me the citizenry needs to remember that those judges and those politicians and those lawyers, they work for us.
Absolutely.
And that Constitution is what's supposed to guide them. And when they get outside it, the people can come up and bite them on the butt. Colonel, it's nice to see you. Sadly, I have breaking news coming to us out of